Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another episode of The Gloving Paradigm, where I'm your host Peter aka LPD Dubuque, the cringiest Glover on YouTube. I'm horrible. So what is it this week that I want to cover coming back from my lovely little break? Yeah, break. Meaning dealing with all the holiday stuff. Anyways, I've been thinking on this kind of concept idea or this episode idea for a while now, and I figure might as well go ahead and do it now while I still have some time to do it. It's post-production work that I want to talk about. Now, I'm not talking about like my episodes or anything like that. I want to talk specifically about light shows or finger shows or anything of that nature when it comes to gloving content that people like to post. Now, a lot of people don't really see it as a necessary thing, but in all honesty, and this is somebody who's speaking from my own experience of doing my own content, the amount of time you put into your post-production work is going to pay back in dividends in terms of the quality of content that you're putting out. Okay, so that's pretty much what I want to do, is kind of show you what I do when it comes to doing some post-production work on a light show. And I just find it very interesting that I'm going to do it on one of my teammates' finals video, because why not? I need to get it done anyways for him. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into things. Alrighty everybody, here we are at my video editing software, which if you have not seen me do this before, it's no surprise, but what I use as my video editing software is Wondershare Filmora. When I first got this, it was at the 9th edition. I think it's at the 10th or 11th now. It's, every now and then I'll get an update and I'll just update it, and it never really tells me which edition it is, but I don't really think that matters. So without further ado, we're going to get right into this. First things that you're going to see down here is the music track that my teammate used for his video. This is for our final round in the Flowtron. Of course, that's already going to be posted by the time this episode comes out, so I don't really think I need to worry as much. But I figure since I have to do this video, might as well use this as a form of content to show you guys what kind of post-production work I go into when it comes to setting up people's videos. So first things first, I'm going to take his lovely little video and I'm going to pretty much try to line up this audio track to his audio track, if that makes any sense. What I tend to do is I will crank up the volume on the raw audio to listen carefully so I can hear it as clearly as I possibly can. And what I also do is I will mute the actual audio track that I'm trying to overlay so I can hear the raw audio first and then try to put it together. It's relatively simple if you think about it. So we're just going to take a quick listen. Okay, so I got a pretty good idea what I'm hearing. How to line it up. So one thing I do want to point out to you guys is when it comes to the raw audio, if you were listening carefully, you can actually hear his gloves and his fingers rubbing together as he's moving around, the whole kind of sound. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people will actually do audio overlays, is because you'll hear that stuff, and that to some people is very distracting. Not only that, the other thing I want to point out as well is if you're somebody like me who does a lot of mode changes and toggles through their modes on their lights, you also want to remove the clicks and stuff, because to a lot of people that is also really distracting. Some people actually like it because if you do it perfectly timed to the music, it is a feature to the song and stuff like that, but that's kind of a thing of personal preference. So what I notice is that right here is a snare drum, and this right here looks like to be a snare drum. So I'm going to line up these two like so. There we are. They look really well lined up. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take that unmute it. We're going to have this up as high as we can, and we're going to try to listen. Okay, already, as it does sound like it's lined up the turn of the drum patterns, it's not lined up everywhere else. So what I have to do now is I gotta figure out exactly where he is on the song and line it up to that part of the song. But I do have it lined up to the drum pattern, so that shows you what I'm able to do. So we gotta listen carefully. Okay, so you can hear a cue change basically going on in the song where the drum patterns disappear for a bit and then come back in. So that's the cue that we need to find on this track. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, we're roughly around the 20-second mark. As you can see up here, this is 20 seconds is the number of frames that we're at. So about 20 seconds in.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Scoot this all the way back and scooch this back a bit, because that is literally what is going on here. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to my audio portion right here. I'm going to hit mute, and then I'm going to listen to the song a bit so I can find the parts I need to find. Okay, so this is where the drum patterns come in, is around like 29 seconds. So I'm going to unmute this. Oops, audio, unmute. Go ahead and mute this again. We're gonna go find that part. Now just remember, we're at the 29-second-ish part right here. This is where the drop comes in for the song after that nice little break. So we're gonna, if I remember correctly, this is where it was. So, yep, there it is. So we found it. We're gonna listen carefully. All right, so about here. All right, now this is where we unmute and we listen to both. All right, so carefully listening. Okay, so I know you probably can't hear it as well as I can, but there is a little bit of a delay, so we want to scoot this
A little longer than a few minutes later.
and voila, that is literally perfect. It is set up that way. So what now I'm going to do is basically see how much time he actually had sitting there. And what I'm going to do now is detach the audio by Control-Alt-D, which detaches the audio. Going ahead, and one thing I want to make sure is I don't lose its spot. Alright, so what I want to do is get rid of this. Alright, so that's where we are on that. Now, what I want to do is also look at his lights and make sure that the color on here is actually in good quality. So what I'll do is I'll actually open up the menu to go to the color section, which you see right up here. There's video, which adds, things like transform, rotating balance, compositing, which is blending mode, stuff like that, which I don't really think we need to worry as much right now. But going to the color, you're gonna have color enhancement, white balance, tone, things of that nature. So you have threshold value, temperature, tint, contrast, saturation, brightness, right? Don't want to necessarily lose this brightness. I think he has his lighting in his room really well, but just to show you what it looks like when you do change the lighting on here. So when you bring it darker, you can actually make things look a lot more done. Alright, just want to show you that and see how there's such a stark difference in terms of brightness. Now, saturation definitely just brings colors out a lot more and it'll make it a lot dim. So we actually increase it a little bit more. You can see that those blues really turn blue, which is definitely something that we want. So let's go ahead and give it Alright, yeah, that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and just crank it up to 70. 70 should be really good. Alright, so just to show you guys what these other things are, you have contrast, which if you watch carefully over here, you'll see it change. You see if there's a contrast there. Taking less contrast does that. So you guys see what that does. Temperature and tint is usually parts where you see if you move it temp more, it goes more into the red. If you move it over down, it goes more blue, as you can probably see. And with tint, it usually does secondary colors, so there's a little bit more green and a little bit more pink that tends to happen. But since this is mostly red in terms of the colors that you see, yeah, it tends to be like that. Threshold, of course, is increasing the tolerance of the colors that you see there. You'll see subtle differences, but that tends to happen. Now, if you crank the volume or the value up, then you're going to see some crazy stuff. As you can see here, you get a little bit more of the grain that tends to happen. That's something you definitely want to avoid for the most part. Which if you see there, I don't get a whole lot of grain, which is great. Yeah, you don't really see a whole lot of the threshold changing, but it is there. Just wanted to point that all out. So yeah, as far as I can tell, this looks really good. I just wanted to crank up that saturation a little bit more so that blue really pops out amongst everything, as well as just checking all the other parts. If you look carefully in the background, that green really starts to show up more just because I actually increased the saturation, because if I reset it, as you can see, it's still there, but it's not as prominent. So if we go back and put 70, it's a little bit better. Now if I crank it all the way up to 100, not much is different, as you can see, but you can definitely see that green pop out a little bit better. And I think 75 is actually probably the best point for this. So yeah, that is literally what you do. And once I get all that done, I'm all pretty much good to go. Now, as you can see, he has a good amount of stuff in the front in terms of the music. So what I'm going to do is do a little bit dishing stuff right there. So you guys will see me mess around with that. Let's actually go faster this way. So where does he actually start? So we got 8 seconds. Basically, I have 8 seconds of song track that I need to line up and actually add up right here in the front, which is fine. So what I'm going to do is I actually got a clip from a video game. Since he's actually doing a character that he wants to do as Jack of Blades, I actually went and got a clip of Jack of Blades. It's one of those things that I kind of do to kind of help with people understanding what the theme of the video that people are going for. So Alrighty, yep, that's pretty much it. And all I'm going to do now is just hit this export button and we're good to go. So.
I have returned. After an eternity away from you all, Jack of Blades is back.
Yeah, I'm a bad guy. Yeah, how about that? Huh? Look at that. Look what I can do. Oh, yeah, out the butthole.
And that is it. That is all you need to see. That's all you need to know. And that's the things that I tend to do when it comes to me working on stuff like this. So I hope that this gave you some insight of what you need to do when it comes to your own post-production work. Yes, I know I'm using a computer to do this. This is how I do a lot of my work as it is. And I know that Joe has even put out a video showing how he does it on the mobile side. So if you have a mobile app like UCut, he has a video on Facebook that you can go check out. I will try to have that linked in the description below. I know it's going to be in Glover's Lounge, so if you're not a part of Glover's Lounge, definitely try to get in there and definitely bug the moderators to get you accepted in there, because that tends to be a thing, is they tend to sit around on their butts sometimes. I've had people sit there and wait 3 whole months just to get into GL. Yeah. Other than that, if you have any questions for me, you have the wonderful places on social media you can hit me up at. You'll find all those linked down in the description below. And you also have the comment section. And of course, if you want to help me out to make better content or help my content get more visibility, you have the wonderful opportunity to not only like, share, and subscribe to my channel, which is all free, by the way. It's literally no more than 30 seconds of your time to do all 3 of those actions. Just wanted to tell you that. But you have the other opportunity to support me on Ko-Fi. Yes, I take any size donations. As little as $1 goes a very long way to help me out and keeping the lights on around here. Because, yes, I actually need that, you know, just pointing that out. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for supporting me in any way you can. But I am your host, Peter, aka El Petit Dubuque, and I'll see you guys all next week.